Marvel was on the brink of collapse. DC has seen massive success with Justice League of America. Publisher Martin Goodman wanted a competing team book. Stan Lee, frustrated with the comic industry, was about to quit, but then his wife convinced him to try writing one last comic. Lee turned to Kirby to co-create what would become the Guys, Fantastic Four First Steps was such a special movie to me because it was the first time the Fantastic Four got to be fantastic.
Say that again?
I pride myself in making this video because I get to talk about the hood savior, Jack, father of comics, Kirby. And if you didn't understand the reference or knew he created the Fantastic Four, Captain America, and many beloved comic book characters, if you didn't know, he saved Marvel and comics in general, and this video is for you. Imagine, instead of reading fairy tales and watching cartoons every Saturday, you're dodging fists and flying brick. Every morning, you're waking up cold tenement crammed into a space barely big enough for two. Your father is working himself to the bone and your mother is keeping the place standing with just pure will. The soundtrack of your childhood includes laughter, shouting, crying, and bottles breaking. Outside gangs roam the streets, and not ones from the movies, I'm talking about the ones in real life. So you're careful not to walk down the wrong block wearing the wrong color cap, because if you did, the fists flew and they flew fast, and if you didn't fight back, you didn't survive. Even then, you see shapes in the chaos. You press your face to the newspaper stand glass, tracing Popeye, Tarzan, Dick Tracy, and then you rush home and draw them from memory on scraps of paper, books, of envelopes, anything you could find. Paper was more valuable than food, son. And you didn't have teachers or mentors. You had comic strips and a cheap pencil. Every line you drew felt like rope pulling you out of the streets. You lie awake and imagine machines flew far from New York. Rocket ship, time portals. Worlds where the weak were strong. Quiet kids were kings. Those dreams aren't just fantasy. They are survival for you. And if I knew you, I would think you were trying to escape reality. But if I really knew you, I'd say you were trying to remake it. Now things are starting to change. All of a sudden you're issued a uniform and a rifle. Send you to Europe in 44. You're not behind the lines, you're right in it. Mud, blood, cold that sinks into your bones like a second skin, and fear never leaves you. You don't get to fly over the battlefield like characters. You had to crawl through it. You're marching through ruined village, houses bombed to ash, families gone. You couldn't draw that. You couldn't even process it. And then the orders come down. Private Kirby, we hear you can draw. Suddenly, you're not just a soldier. You're the guy sent ahead of the unit to sketch enemy stronghold. They made you scout and draw Nazi position. Alone, behind enemy, pencil in one hand, gun in the other. You saw death up close. Kinda leaves your soul shivering even when your body's drawing. Not because you wanted, because you had to. Wow, that was depressing. But that was reality. Heartbreaking, and unfortunately it doesn't end. Jack Kirby came home from World War II, but there was no applause or heroes. Instead, there were unpaid bills, baby on the way, in an industry that had already started to forget him.
Years before the Marvel Age was dreamed of.
The time of Jack Kirby, there's what you'd have to call the ages of Jack Kirby. There's the early age where, you know, he's with all the old guys who began comics, and people were just cranking out page after page after page. Then there was the terrible time, 1953, when a guy named Frederick Wertham came down on comic books because he was a psychologist, and he told America that comic books were corrupting our children. And the Congress attacked them just in a very similar way to the way America attacked communists, and comic books became no better than toilet paper.
I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty horrifying to think that here are all these people who had these jobs in careers in an industry that suddenly, before their eyes, is disappearing.
Kirby, along with Joe Simon, stayed in the industry, but just around it. Kirby drew all types of different comic books, from Western to romance, monster, and war, for very bad money. Kirby tried other things like writing scripts for television and newspaper strips, but comics was his passion. it was his voice. Eventually, Kirby went back to his old stomping grounds, Timely Comics, and got together with Stan Lee and started to do comics. That was the beginning of Marvel. You see, Fantastic Four wasn't just the birth of Marvel's first family. It was the blueprint for the modern day superhero. Before them, superheroes were polished, perfect. They didn't argue, didn't cry, definitely didn't hate each other, at least not on the same team. The Fantastic Four changed that. Not just villains, but each other. They were flawed, impulsive, insecure, completely human. Everything you've seen on screen with Fantastic Four First Steps is what you got on paper. But they weren't like the Avengers or the Justice League. They were family. He gave us the negatives, gave us the Baxter Building, gave us Galactus. Then came the Silver Surfer. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby weren't just writing stories. Guys, they were launching entire mythology. Within 5 years of Fantastic Four being #1, Marvel would go on to release the Avengers, X-Men, Thor, Iron Man, and Black Panther. Unfortunately, we've gotten to the top of Kirby's life. The only way forward is down. Kirby lived a life similar to Stan Lee after creating a majority of the characters we know and love today. I wouldn't be making this video. While Stan became the face of Marvel, Kirby became just the artist. He was more than that. Lauded, hated. By the late 60s, the relationship between Kirby and Marvel had fractured. Stan was getting interviews, Jack was getting silent. In 1970s, Kirby decided to walk away. He later took his talents to DC, where he created the New Gods, Mr. Miracle, Darkseid, and an entire myth. But again, no ownership, no right, just another check. He spent the rest of his career fighting for recognition, for a signature. Then he died in 1994 with no royal studio credits. Just the man built the Marvel universe, didn't get to live in it. In a world where everyone is giving their opinion on the internet about Fantastic Four, I decided to be a bit different, take more time in talking about the creator, Fantastic Four, because not everybody knows the guy. But you want to hear my opinion on the Fantastic Four First Steps. Long story short, I love the film. It's the best Fantastic Four film we've got. And I guess that's not saying much because of the competition. Let's look at the competition for a little bit. You have the first ever Fantastic Four film that got released in 2005. It wasn't great, but it was special to me because I didn't read comics at the time, and it did a good job at making me intrigued with this family superhero team. It did a bad job at handling Doom. I thought Doom was lame because of the film, and then I picked up a comic book and felt betrayed.
And do you have an infinity gauntlet now?
I do not. Yet I remain Thanos, the great Tyrant. And for you, that will be enough.
That appears untrue.
This dude is nothing like the movies. Because I felt Doom was lame, I never felt like the Fantastic Four were ever in real danger. And it's true. If you go back and watch the film, there's no real stakes. It's an origin story that had a lot of work to do, but I mean, hey, at least we got a second. And I applaud the second film for being better. Silver Surfer was the greatest thing I seen at the time, and he, or should I say she, is still the greatest thing. The greatest thing about the Silver Surfer being in this movie is that Galactus existed, and we went from no real stakes in the first movie to the world is officially going to end if we don't get our crap together in the second. And then we seen Galactus. Besides Galactus, the film was a pretty big step up from the first, and I really believe given a third film, they may have made the Fantastic Four movie. Instead, we got fan forced it. As much as I would have a field day ripping into this movie, there's plenty of people on YouTube that already have. So search up Fantastic Four reviews, grab your popcorn, and try not to choke on it while laughing, because this movie is hilariously bad. And it's a shame. The director of Fantastic Four made Chronicles, and I love that movie. Still do, but God, how do you take 2 steps forward and take 500 steps backwards? I guess there's a lesson to be learned in that, because 9 years later, we got the best Fantastic Four film and one of my all-time favorite Marvel films. So take a gun and shoot me silly, because I rewatched the film multiple times, so it hurts me to see that the film is suffering an 80% drop at the box office in its second weekend. It's one of the few Marvel films to really focus more on story rather than action. And what scares me now is Marvel is going to see that the film is struggling to break even. They're going to decide that this means that they need to focus on action rather than telling a good story. Or maybe not. As a 17-year-old me used to say, in Kevin Feige we trust. Now, to every cast, crew, director that helped with making the definitive Fantastic Four film, I really want to give a shout out to a hero who didn't dodge bullets, let it hit him so that he could write comics about it. It took decades and millions of fans to say the words Marvel never did in his lifetime. Thank you, Jack. With that being said, that's all I got. I don't know if this video will perform just as good as Superman, considering I focus more on Jack Kirby's history rather than the Fantastic Four films, but Hey, if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and then let's talk about Fantastic Four in the comments. Oh, and another Spider-Man film is coming out next year, and because Spider-Man is such a popular character, whenever I make videos about him, it does great. So Brand New Day is the title, and I look forward to talking about that. Hope it does great, because it will be a very different video compared to my others if it doesn't. Maybe I'll make a video talking about why. We'll see.